Right, 7:03. Call the meeting to order. Is anybody on the phone, Martha?
I don't think so.
No, it's just you and I.
Okay, just Katie and I.
Okay, so we're missing Mr. Kelsey, and I would entertain a motion.
Make motions for Fred to be seated in David's place.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Well, let's just go down the agenda. If we have time to look at the minutes of last week, we can do that and add it to the agenda later. But right now, the minutes of the 17th of September are up for discussion and review and approval. Any comment before I call for a motion? And a motion to approve, I will entertain.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, any corrections, amendments? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Motion passes. Then the 2015 meeting schedule, have you all taken a look at it? You all have a copy of it?
I don't think so.
No.
Didn't see it.
Oh, I got a copy of it somehow, but you didn't distribute it to folks, and you didn't make copies for tonight? Well, we have to approve it in November, so let's send copies around. My question, frankly, is, you must have talked about this.
Well, we talked about, I thought she was gonna provide you with the date, and then
She did.
you and I were gonna talk about the actual agenda items on each of those dates, in case there were some changes, because I wasn't sure how that had all come about.
Okay, so we have a proposed schedule with the agenda items on each date, and my principal question is going to be whether the time allotment is evenly distributed. My recollection last year is that some meetings were overloaded, relatively speaking, and others were not, you know. So I just wanted to talk about that, but get your input, so we'll do that in November.
BJ, do you intend to use the same process that we used this year, where there was like a couple sort of longer meetings with all the department heads?
Well, let's ask that of the first select woman.
It is a Board of Selectmen budget, and the Board of Selectmen will be meeting with the department heads. Whether you care to join us at those, you don't have to if you don't want to. We had a meeting with our staff and talked about how we can improve a little bit on those particular meetings. So we probably won't be putting as many people on. We might have more meetings, but we won't have as lengthy as a process.
I guess the question comes back, BJ, will the Board of Finance still have specialists that'll meet with the boards, commissions, and departments separately? Or, I guess that's where it's more meetings for them perhaps.
Right. So let's talk about that. I thought that last year's procedure, which didn't involve the specialists going out independently, worked well, that any member of the Board of Finance was welcome to attend meetings of the Board of Selectmen when they interviewed the department heads and could participate in those meetings and ask questions and so on. And then we got a budget that came to us from the Board of Selectmen, sort of with their imprimatur, and then we second-guessed it. And that wasn't a rubber stamp process. As the Board of Finance went through each of the budget items, we asked some good questions and made some changes and so on. So my own view is that we don't need to have a third process of having specialists go out and in essence kind of duplicate what the Board of Selectmen will do, but I'm happy to hear contrary views or a discussion of that.
Well, I mean, that's fine. Last year, some of us had to work and could not attend any of those preliminary meetings, so the first time we were seeing the information was at the board at our Board of Finance meetings.
I mean,
Well, but that would be true even if we had specialists, right?
Well, but you would have a member of the Board of Finance that was usually looked to as, what's your opinion as a member of the Board of Finance and knowing the pieces of the puzzle, again.
Right.
I'm just looking to see, is that the way,
Right.
if it's gonna be just the selectmen's meetings with department heads and boards and commissions, and then it's gonna be put in our laps,
Right.
that's fine.
And my kind of footnote on that is, I don't think it's superfluous or unimportant for members of the Board of Finance to attend the Board of Selectmen meetings and to participate in those meetings, to ask questions, and then to be able to report back to the Board of Finance when we meet regarding any issues that came up. If we weren't going to do that, if there was going to be no attendance by members of the Board of Finance at the Board of Selectmen meetings, I'd be more sympathetic to your concern. So let me just ask, I know some of us, I and you attended most, if not all of those Board of Selectmen meetings. And so,
From my perspective, also working, I actually found that this process was easier to schedule around because with my specialty assignments, most of those departments wanted to meet during the day. So I would have 6 or 7 different meetings with them sort of scattered around. And this was a much easier thing to say, well, I need this half a day to go to this meeting. Rather than having 6 or 7 times that I was trying to pop out and meet with various specialist departments.
Anna?
I think the part that I missed about having a specialist assignment was sort of, because I always had places off of town hall property, so I had like public works and nonprofits and things like that, was getting to go see those places. So I think maybe if you are going, if the Board of Selectmen is getting a tour of Public Works or the fire department or the police department, if you could let us know, and if we can come, that would be like a neat thing for us to be able to see. Because I think it gave us a good at least it gave me a very good perspective on certain things. And when they said, yeah, we want to replace XYZ, you could see the need versus look at it and be like, well, that's a nice to have. But if we can get it in the budget, that's great, as opposed to something else that somebody else might come and see. So I think that would be kind of nice. I don't see the need for the specialists either.
Well, but let me suggest kind of a combination of the two. Right now, attendance at the Board of Selectmen meetings is voluntary and arbitrary. But what if we change that? What if we had folks determine which of these departments do you want to take responsibility for? And then rather than go to the Public Works Department on a Tuesday morning, you go to the meeting with the Board of Selectmen for the Public Works Department, and you make it your responsibility to, take an active role and then report back to the Board of Finance. The only difference is rather than meeting alone with the department chairman, you're meeting with the department head, with the Board of Selectmen.
And probably meeting in town hall, obviously, because you're scheduling multiple meetings, you're not gonna bounce around. To your point, sometimes it is good to go on site.
sometimes, and we should have some updates before we even schedule those meetings of who's somebody scheduling some kind of a big project that they want us to look at. So prior to even scheduling those meetings, when we see their preliminary, when Anita gets their preliminary numbers, she's gonna know if there's a big project they're hoping to do.
Right. A wrinkle in my proposal is that when the specialists would meet with the department, they would do it at a mutually convenient time. When the Board of Selectmen schedules a department, the specialist has to kind of, make that date and time. So I guess my proposal would be that we come in next month with having identified for ourselves which departments might we want to assume responsibility for, and then agree to attend the Board of Selectmen meeting at which that department is going to be interviewed, And if there's a conflict that makes it impossible for you to do that, then it's incumbent on you to get somebody else to kind of stand in your place and come.
But then are the department heads gonna come back to the Board of Finance meetings when their budget is?
Well, last year, Randy,
They did, and I guess, Andy, my answer to that ought to be, or is, not as an absolute rule, and we should decide in which cases do we want somebody.
You don't really need it.
Right,
You know,
right,
it's a 2% increase and it's the salaries that are increasing.
Right.
There are no special
right,
projects.
right. But if there's a significant increase that the Board of Selectmen thinks is a great idea, and we're gonna have questions about it, we do want it.
Is that something that could be decided at those Board of Selectmen / Board of Finance meetings, those initial meetings? To sort of tell department heads, like, you need to come to the Board of
So
Finance meeting?
absolutely, that makes sense.
Well, what about it when I give you your budget books at that time, you could decide if you have any questions on any of the different ones.
Mhm.
Just let them know ahead of time, and I could just say that at the end of the meeting.
That happens after
After the
the
board
meeting
of
you've already met, you've already
Right.
met with the department
So you
head.
get
So
more
again,
time, yeah.
that's where it's really, the information should really be flagged, is at that meeting, that, you know, there's a project, there's, an additional employee being requested, there's something like that, that I would think the Board of Finance might have questions about, as a whole.
Right, so I think we should get input from Martha as to whether you think the head of the department should come to the Board of Finance meeting, and the specialist, you and the specialist should give us your views. And if at least one of you says yes, then we should invite them.
well, I think we had a couple of people that we asked to come back once or twice even. They didn't just come once, they came back a couple of times, and then I know Vicky, we had to come back at the end because we didn't have all of her numbers for her, whether we buy out the computers or whether we continue to lease them. So that one came around a number of times. I know it was a change for all of you, but I really felt that Anita and the department heads did a really good job of providing backup. Not only that, but there were also notes over on the right-hand side column. I know it frustrated me, and I know it frustrated some department heads, that no one sometimes looked over to the right-hand side. Somebody would ask a question, and they said, did they see the notes on the right-hand side? Because the right-hand side answered that question. And I was like, well, you can, you know, they're getting a flow, but we talked about some changes with them at a staff meeting at the end of September.
Yeah, I've already updated most of all the spreadsheets. I still have a little bit more to go. I plan to email them out by the end of this month for all the departments, so that they can start looking at their capital, they can start looking at all their paperwork. The only change I made to the actual spreadsheets that you got going across is where it said description, I put description / additional instead of second, because half of my left blank, I never got that far. So I put, description / additional info in that. So instead of having it, it's like 4, well, it'll be like 3. So it's, instead of some people repeated it in both places too, so it was just, but, I will have it to them, they have all the numbers up until September. I just gotta finish a few, and then I gotta separate them all out by departments and send them off to each person.
Martha, last year you scheduled 2 meetings additionally, right?
Okay, we're not doing that one again.
You're doing more meetings, you said earlier?
We have to, Jim and Jude and I, in our November Board of Selectmen meeting, will start to talk about scheduling on
Okay.
how we can do it more efficiently. You know, we thought some of these people would just come in 15 minutes, out they'd go, but then there'd be, actually, a lot of the questions came from the Board of Finance people that were here, and like, well, what does that mean, or whatever. And so somebody who should have been in here for 15 minutes, like building committee, the building department, was here for like 40 minutes. And so those things, you know, things we thought were gonna go like this actually lasted longer. So we need to more efficiently plan and plan our, sorry, wonderful allergies in the fall. But that's where we are. And we will do our best to, but I just think it's more transparent when everybody hears the same thing at the same time. Because I think we had seen some things in the 2 years that I was a selectman who, oh, well, that wasn't told to us, and now all of a sudden it comes out at a Board of Finance meeting. And it's interesting that that department head didn't share that information completely with us. And it was a different, last year was important. Anita was new, I was new, Jim and Jude were, well, Jude wasn't new to the process, but it is. So we'll work it out to make it as efficient as possible for everybody.
The bulk of those meetings will take place in January, because the budget comes to us end of January, or Board of Selectmen.
I think it comes to review, right, and then you still have a week or two. February is when you start your hearings. I don't see the schedule, I don't have the schedule in front of me.
I don't know, it's over there.
BJ,
Budget overview, January 21st,
so,
I guess I would see.
So the preliminary meeting will be between January 2nd and 20th or something.
Christmas Day on it.
This schedule has the annual town meeting scheduled for the 27th of January, and the first Board of Finance budget meeting on the 4th of February.
I think
But
too
the Board of Selectmen typically,
Before that.
before that.
Oh, absolutely.
It has nothing to do with the town meeting.
Absolutely.
No.
But
And I can appreciate that that makes fewer meetings for the department heads.
Right. Yeah, let's try it this way, Diane.
Yeah, my only comment would be, instead of, like assigning people to certain departments, again, because we don't know what the schedule is going to be or anything like that, is just to ensure that at least, let's say, 2 members of the Board of Finance are at all of these meetings. And that was
Yeah.
usually the case last year, that there were at least 2, if not 3 or 4, but at least 2. So those that can essentially become the people that were involved in the discussions that were going on. And I found those very informative as opposed to my just looking at numbers and coming up with questions, because there was a lot of discussion that occurred, throughout those meetings. So my feeling is all you really need to do is to assure that you have, let's pick a number, 2 members of the Board of Finance present at all the meetings.
And I think the number 2 as a minimum is fine. My only quarrel is that some people have particular affinity or experience with particular departments.
Then they can come.
Right, but if they're, so to the extent that they can raise their hand to say, I'm going to be here, here, and here,
And if some,
then we need only one other member of the Board of Finance.
Well, I
To
just, minimum, I didn't say maximum.
Right. But the other thing is, I think responsibility is important. In other words, you can attend a meeting and kind of look at your cell phone at the same time and not really walk away with a report to the Board of Finance. So I would like a member of the Board of Finance at each Board of Selectmen meeting to be assigned the responsibility of taking notes and making note of what he or she thinks should be reported to the Board of Finance, if anything.
Well, I think if we're going to take the trouble to go to the meeting, we're going to pay attention and
Yeah,
we'll take notes. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, I think maybe in December we can kind of juggle this around a little bit and
Yeah.
kind of line up who's likely to go to these meetings.
once
Right,
Martha
it's the-
has a schedule set up,
Yeah.
Exactly, and then we could all
then we
pick
can
and choose and.
look at it.
it's easier for somebody like the fire department to come at night because they do work. Of course, they could get called to a fire, but that's okay. We make those allowances. But if it's easier for them to come in the evening, we can always make that an evening meeting and work it through that.
Yeah, I think it'll work out fine. Just kind of
Yeah,
formalizing.
we had a lot of
Well, I take your point. I mean, we want to get something out of these meetings and be able to look at this information, so.
We had a lot of good feedback though from department heads who, first of all, some of them had never met the Board of Finance members. I mean, they hadn't met you. They met maybe their specialists, but they hadn't met all of you. And they were glad to do that as well.
And I think the point you made earlier about all being around the same table, everybody, I think that's really, really good. What each other's saying.
Okay, it just pops into my mind that at the Board of Finance and also at the Board of Selectmen, department heads or others, I don't know that you give them guidance or we've given them guidance regarding what is it that they need to tell us. And some of them kind of drill right down to the fact and tell us what we need to know. And others kind of go on for a long time with stories that we don't need to know. So it's kind of, to the extent that we can, for all of our benefit, make the meetings efficient by focusing on, the essentials and not the tangents. That would be
Just the
good.
facts.
Just the facts, ma'am.
Similar to the
Not the
presentation you make to the public in the hearing.
Yeah.
You don't go through the thing line by line, you go through the significant changes within a department or within an area. And I think that's
Mhm.
that's what we're looking for, we approved what you did this year, right or wrong. But what's the major change, and then what's the driving force behind that change? Because those are the questions we'll probably be asked if we have a significant budget increase, why? And we can point to certain things that drove it to that point.
Well, we always like to see that initial budget that Anita gives me, and I say, oh, no.
Well, you gotta put it on the table and have a
Yeah, yeah.
conversation about stuff. I think
Right.
that's important.
And the question is the salary committee, the same people as last year?
Say what?
Is the salary committee, the
Salary
same people as last year?
Oh, who is it? Andy, me, and David?
Yes,
Mm.
and Martha, of course.
Well, yeah. Does anybody else want to be on the salary committee?
You can't overpour.
I would expect that it'll be less painful this year, having come up with a schedule last year, right? Good, okay. I'm not going to quantify anything, and Anita can if she wants to, but based on a brief conversation that I had with her, the budget, we did well on the budget for the year ended June 30th. That expenses were below budget and revenues were above budget. Can't beat that. When do you think we'll get even preliminary financials from the accountants?
The auditors will be here the second week in November.
I have to just run downstairs to send a link to a meeting, another meeting. Jim, be right back.
Numbers, but
Just
I
getting
don't
them
have
for me.
official numbers because the auditors always do certain variances. They make some adjustments to certain things, like sometimes they don't like how I depreciated landfill, and they decided instead of 20 for the year, no, we're only gonna do 14 this year.
Yeah,
So those little minor things change. Yeah.
Didn't we have new auditors last year too?
Yes, and I have another new one now, and
Okay,
two, I already two new ones.
But last year was a year full of changes.
Well, yeah, Ron retired.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't get to work with Ron, he just came in and said, you're getting a new auditor, he left in December, we got Santa. Santa started working, it seems like everybody I did speak with, Santa was late with them too. So then we got, Nicoletta, who lives here in town, and she is one of the auditors, so, off the record, I don't know if it's officially yet, but she is leaving CLA, and she's taken on a new job. She decided that, at the end of her career, she doesn't want to be an auditor, she wants to do something different. So now we got Leslie, and I'll meet Leslie for the first time in November.
So BJ, just to circle back to the original thing, so the 2025 plan, you're gonna send out, or someone's gonna, Martha, Michelle, somebody's gonna send us the proposed schedule, is that correct, of the meetings? We can all take a look. I don't know that we need to agree to be a specialist, so that's kind of a blank slate. But
Mhm.
is that what you're looking for the next meeting? Or where do you-
well, yes, and presumably, Michelle would just send around the schedule that exists today. And as I said, my interest is in kind of equalizing the time commitment for each meeting. So just take a look and see whether you think that the amount of stuff scheduled is uneven, and if so, let's discuss equalizing it, moving it.
But what her need is in November is us to approve the dates, which doesn't lock us into
Who does
having the
what?
fire department on this date and this one on that date. But I agree with you, BJ, you kind of have to look at those and try to, Public Works is more than a 15-minute conversation. Where some, I think, it'd be real good at the selectmen's meeting if they go through the budget and it's almost a slam dunk to say, great, thanks, I don't think we'll need you to attend the Board of Finance meeting. But,
Well, to your point, Andy, I think the dates are probably not controversial.
yeah,
You know,
the dates
it's
are
like-
the dates.
They're, you know, every
Third
Tuesday, yeah.
In of the month.
We
Mhm.
have to agree to those too. No,
No, we don't.
Okay.
Just for submitting to the town clerk, for budget season.
Right.
That's what we're gonna fiddle with that, but we probably won't move the dates.
Yeah, that might come more out of the selectmen's meetings with the department heads, kind of knowing what might fit together on what nights.
Well, it might come from initial budget proposals too.
Right.
And what I did when I did a tentative look at, I was trying to keep grouping together instead of going one side of the book to the other side of the book to the other side.
That's helpful too, because we get lost in those books.
Oh, there's so many pages, and that's why I was thinking that maybe we could try to group and do a group at a time. And some nights you might do like 2 or 3 groups, really easy ones.
Okay, I think we'll work it out, I'm not worried about that. So let's
Copy
go-
of this list of dates?
No, they're
Say
gonna
what?
send it.
Oh, sorry.
She's
Okay.
gonna send it.
Okay.
But for your mental planning right now, starting on February 4th, it'll be every Tuesday, except for school vacation, I guess. Financial reports. Anybody have questions or comments?
I like your summary that you put together, like the third page in, which kind of gives us an idea as to, percentage-wise where we're sitting.
And it is useful to compare it to last year, but it would also be useful to compare it to budget. Would that be hard for you to do?
It is
This is-
compared to
I
my.
think that percentage left is for this year, so 73% left for this fiscal year.
Oh, you're just talking about the summary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just being pulled from
That's being pulled right from the report.
the full report.
Was there a reason why beach cleaning was so much more this year?
Mm-hmm. Ray had passed away.
Yeah,
So he was just
we-
charging us less?
He was charging us 5,700, and we paid 18,400.
I mean, whoever was doing it wasn't doing such a hot job, just so you know, for the 18-4.
There was not a lot of time to,
Hire someone?
well, because their schedules build up. So we have had one vendor, Anthony's, and, I know BJ, I think you used him for a while, but you weren't happy with him at Edgewood, or
Well,
did he get better?
yeah, I'm not ready to blame him, but for a couple of reasons, expenses went through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
His beach cleaning expense was okay, but his disposal expense was, unaffordable. And he said he had to bring the stuff up to East Haddam because our transfer station would no longer take seaweed. And at least for us, there was an excessive amount of seaweed this year. Whether, for whatever weather-related reasons, it was just through the roof. But we had a contract, the town had a contract with Anthony, but did he stick to that, or was there an opportunity for overages?
And he stuck to it. I mean, he stuck to the contract, but it was just out, I thought the prices were a little,
But wouldn't this be the time to
we've
put
already
it out to
started
bid? I
talking.
know there was talk last year of the town buying a machine and doing it itself. I mean, I imagine that would be cheaper.
You can't or you can?
I can't, I mean, you have to allocate personnel and
It-
equipment.
It wasn't done well, though, I will say that. I don't know if the 5,500 we were paying before, if he was just doing it as a favor to the town and that was not market rate, but for 18,400, the beach was a mess every single time we went down there. So I don't particularly think whoever was doing it was, I mean, it was clear somebody was doing it, it just wasn't done well. There
I have to
was stuff
say-
all over the
I
place.
have to tell you, is doing Soundview, and I believe Miami as well, but I'd have to double check on that. But I walked that beach.
Was he doing White Sands, like the town part of White Sands?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe doing another part of White Sands too.
And he was doing it every day?
But Don, I've already reached out to Don and suggested that he look for other bids. And he did reach out to one that, Fox Nest didn't like the way Anthony's was doing, so they switched, I think, somewhere in the season. And we reached out to her people. They don't want to take us on. No offense to us, they just have enough work to do, and they don't want to take us on. So, it's trying to find someone who will do it.
Yeah, if they're just going down to do the town part of White Sands and the town part of Soundview,
That's a lot.
that's a small,
Well,
takes more,
Miami, I think, gets pulled in there as well because of,
well, again, depending on the vendor, if the vendor isn't doing Miami Beach and they're just coming in to do the town part,
40 feet.
well, there's,
that's a lot of
And that's why-
mobilization to do.
this particular vendor was doing Old Colony, I'm sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it was one full suite.
Well, then that must be what we get for
And then
18 floor.
it's not, there are other ways to do it, but.
I mean, you do it, it's fiscally the best, right? And if this is the best we can get without buying equipment and having our own people do it and spending a lot more money, then
You know, lifeguards can rake the beach.
That's where it was.
maybe they could do
I mean, I worked
something.
at Rocky Neck, we never had a machine come on the beach ever.
Mhm.
And a lot of people went to Rocky Neck, and no machines came onto the beach. I mean, that was in the 70s, ancient, I don't know. People still brought stuff to the beach, and they left stuff behind.
Actually, I should reach out to the state and see how they're doing it. I'll have to ask Rocky Neck how they do their beach
Yeah.
now.
It is a problem. Did you get an answer, did you inquire and get an answer as to dumping the seaweed in our landfill? And any information regarding the cost difference between disposing of it there rather than somewhere else?
So the interesting part is that I believe Anthony was dumping our stuff over on Gorton Ave. He rented-
You wonder why it wasn't clean.
That's what it was costing him, when you're doing the town stuff too.
It washed up on-
It washed back up on your beach. He was making a lot of money off of this
No,
deal.
he was right up on the north side of Gorton. There was a lot, and I guess one of the beaches said that he could use that so that he wouldn't have to transport equipment back and forth every day. So he left his equipment there in a dumpster, and I think he was emptying his machine into the dumpster.
Okay. And
So-
that was the-
But the
And then that
dumpster
was
has to be
being
dumped.
He wasn't putting your seaweed in that dumpster evidently.
I'm sorry?
He wasn't putting your seaweed in, I guess.
No, but I understand they do put the seaweed into the dumpster in the first instance, then they have to bring the dumpster somewhere to empty it. And not to our landfill, apparently, but you don't know where he
You don't know
was.
what's in it. I
There's
mean, there could be
gotta be-
plastic cups in with the seaweed, I would think.
Yeah, but we've done it for decades. I mean, you know.
They said it brings
taken
too many bugs, smell, I mean,
There's gotta be something that somebody's doing to, because I mean, if you think about all the other beach communities along the shoreline, like, they can't all be sending all of their seaweed. Like, we have just a little bit that we're dealing with. Like, they can't all be sending all of their seaweed to a trash facility. Like, that would just be really expensive.
right.
So they have to be doing something with it that we need to figure out.
BJ called me and asked about seaweed disposal, and I said to him, same thing. I said, the Beach Boys, when I went to the beach, dug a hole, put seaweed in it, and that's the way you got rid of it.
Yeah.
And eventually, it decomposed, or it went back out to sea in a high tide. No issues. I know BJ didn't want to dig the hole, but.
But others could dig.
Look at your
It was a crisis over the 4th of July weekend with just this massive amount. We have a beach cleaning budget of several $1,000s a year, and the entire budget just about was exhausted with one cleaning. Anyway, let's move on. But Anita, back to my question. Here you prepared on percentage basis for the expenditures for the prior year. Could you also do that compared to the budget? So we know,
That's what it is.
That's what that is.
is
That's what
it?
it is. The left column is this year in percentage to budget, and the right column is last year percentage to budget. So the general government is 73.13 is remaining.
Oh, okay.
Last year
Yeah,
was
I
1.5
see.
remaining.
can see current year and
Yes,
how it compares to
yes.
prior year.
I'm sorry.
And then the unspent percentage at the bottom is basically the overall budget, correct, Shanita?
Yeah.
That's about, yes.
So,
Anita, back to the 6:30 financial statements. Are you in a position right now to give us any information, or would you rather wait?
Off the top of my head, I mean, I'd rather not go on forever, but, yeah. But it's about 1.8, I think, between revenue and increased revenue and what's remaining in expenditure is approximately about 1.718.
So that means that our surplus
Will grow.
would have gone up by that amount as of year end, which would be terrific.
Does that include anything that was spent during the year at town meeting? By
That's
approval?
everything, that's not, we did not touch, last year in it, well, this year, the year before you had 600, I think it was 600 from, surplus, and it was never touched.
Mhm. That's been pretty typical.
Yes.
Okay. Back to the financial report. On the first one, for capital project funds, I assume these numbers are year-to-date numbers, they're not monthly numbers, right?
So, no, this one is,
In other
for
words,
the month, these are the months.
Period.
well,
For the period.
the line expenditures, for example. Okay?
Oh, you look at the report, which report?
No, the first page.
Front page.
For the revenue?
Capital fund.
Capital project. This,
Capital project.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
no, it's okay.
I don't know which order you get.
well, that first section is revenue.
I probably can answer it, so I don't know.
So I would understand this to
Go,
mean
Michael.
between July 1st and now, we
Right.
spent $772 on road improvements.
Correct. In other words, it's cumulative, it's not just for the month.
Just under road improvements,
Oh,
that 772?
no, that goes on year to date.
Year-to-date,
Yeah,
yeah.
year-to-date, that's July 1 till now, that's what we spent on road improvements, which makes sense, because that's when we do the bulk of the paving
Yes.
during the summer.
On the next page, police private duty, I'm just going to chime in because I always have questions. If you look under police private duty,
Yes.
just these expenditures, banner pole fees,
No, underneath, that's for Fund 9 detail. The only thing for the.
oh,
police-
Fund 9 detail, so that's, I see, so that has nothing to do with the,
No,
very good.
the 7 is underneath it, and
I
it's
see it.
just wages and payroll taxes.
Okay. Good. And I think I ask this every month, what's miscellaneous revenue comprised of?
Miscellaneous is your restricted, your ARPA money, it's your grants, it's, that's all over here. You see banner donations, performance funds, insurance reimbursement, all of that detail.
So,
Okay.
yes, miscellaneous revenue is Fund
That
9.
is, that's your miscellaneous.
Say what?
What's down here
Is Fund 9,
the
it's
detailed
hard to see that.
miscellaneous revenue.
Yeah, it's,
Oh.
well, that's the expenditures, but the revenue offsets it. For those revenues, for the insurance, if there's an accident, they give us the
Mhm.
reimbursement, and then they send it out of there, so it's a wash.
Okay.
Can I ask a question myself? I'm a little concerned about the banner poles, because they're supposed to give us a check when they put in the request to have the banner put up. So, Michelle, you deal with the people who do the banners across Halls Road. Do they provide you with the check? And so it goes upstairs immediately?
And there is carryover in that I have under deferred, and I have that's.
Well, I just see that we're spending out 1,500, and we've only taken in 3, and we've had more checks come in than that. So I'm wondering why the revenue is so low when we,
Because it was a year ago. You have to pay for it a year in advance. It's like we used to do it for the Junior Women's Club if we wanted it for next Monday. we had to pay for it Monday, the date a year before and come in with a check. Yeah, when you reserve it, and you need to reserve it basically in a year in advance because they're so popular. So,
I think-
would you have taken that then as revenue then?
No, it didn't, it's showing as deferred revenue in the fund. So what it is, at the end of every year, I have a whole spreadsheet for the auditors that tells you how much was taken in revenue last year, and it's sitting there waiting to be spent. So there's a whole nother spreadsheet for that.
Okay,
So then
But
what
I
is
don't
it,
update that one monthly, I just do that piece of the year.
so what is the $300 revenue from?
That was given this year.
Who's given this year? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I understand that.
For somebody reserving it for next year.
Yeah.
The next page in our
I mean,
handout.
I could give you just like if you want, I can send you the breakdown for what's in the deferred.
I just wanna make sure we get paid.
Yeah.
That's all. I just wanna make sure we,
I double checked everything.
okay. Not you, I'm just
Like, no banner goes up without money.
It's true. She won't give it to you.
I didn't know Michelle.
Hardcore, Michelle.
That sounds pretty definitive. I like that.
Who's the gatekeeper on that one?
Can't say I'm coming back with a check. She's like, take your form. Get out of here. Come back with a check.
Okay.
Carryovers. I have a question, the third and fourth boxes for Ferry Road sidewalk. There are, in the third section, there are two line items available with 30,028. And then down below, line 257, sidewalk construction Ferry Road, 82,370. What's the difference?
Jim?
There are two different budget years that we budgeted for.
Yes.
Oh, I see. I see, you're absolutely right. Yep.
We needed more money.
Yep. Okay. So have we finally paid everything for that?
Tim is down to, there's a few more things that have to be done. We did get the reimbursement from the state. I submitted all the papers. We did not have to, it wasn't a matching, so as long as we spent the 126.
Mhm.
So I sent them everything they needed to. They've already sent us the money for the 126 steep grant. But Tim still has some expenditures for the seeding, for the tree, and planting a few replacements.
But as far as you know, it's all within the carryover. We've got enough money
Correct,
to
and
pay
he
the
has
bills.
a spreadsheet, and he said he's down that he might end up at the end of it giving us a couple thousand back.
Okay. The next page is Board of Finance, September 2024 highlights. That we talked about a little bit before, but the first two lines remain consistent.
Okay.
Well, maybe not. No, total revenue is up 39,427, but tax revenue is
It's down.
up. Well, for the month it's down, but overall it's up by 617. So I guess the differential is some of the state money hasn't come in yet. And that's why in the aggregate, total revenue may be down, but there's money left to come
It's
in.
timing, isn't it?
Yeah.
They
More
pay when they
than-
want to pay,
Yeah.
it's not,
So that's what I'm figuring out, the difference between total revenue and tax revenue.
and total revenue is, some of it too is if you look actually, and why I don't do as much detail over there, is if you look at the revenue report, it does show you a prior year what was taken in, and it's, you can see, buildings, this year took in 61, the last year only took in 30. But then you have parking lot took in 18, almost 19 last year, this year was closer to 16. Transfer station last year took in 23,000, but this year it only took in 17,000. Interest is up. So, and you can see also too, tax revenue Last year it took in 267,000, this year was only 237,000.
Okay.
So that's why I don't do as much detail as on the revenue side, because it gives you what you did prior year.
Mhm. On the actual and anticipated revenues page, for Rogers Lake, the budgeted expected revenues is 42,000, we've collected nothing. Is that because Rogers Lake income tends to come in before July 1st?
Isn't that the payment from line? Reimbursement from line?
Yes, and I don't think they have really, they did pay us, we had a last year, and I know I billed them.
Yeah, well, down below there are other line reimbursements for Town Woods Park, Senior Center, and Senior Center project reimbursement, for which we haven't collected anything, and so my question is, have they been billed and are they tardy? I thought they were normally prompt in paying us.
Don't they have a new finance person? Yeah. They have a new person. Did they not pay it all last year?
No,
For
this is
Rogers
just-
Lake?
This is just the month of September?
So maybe that's
Yeah,
it, we
this
didn't
is
get
carried
paid last
out.
year.
No.
We didn't get paid last year, and we've been paid this year, for this year. And we didn't get paid in this time frame last year.
That month,
In
September.
July, August, or September.
Oh, yeah,
we
wait, I
didn't
just
get
billed it. That's why, so that's why you didn't, I just billed it in
paid. No, but we've
October.
gotten the revenue this year,
It's billed
It's
quarterly,
billed quarterly.
right?
okay?
So I just billed from July, August, September.
That's the same timing as last year.
And they'll get
They
it,
didn't
and
get
we'll-
money.
they gave us, because I'm like, they paid it, I know I billed it. And
That's
the other
fine.
one was prior year, so it had to go into June's money,
Mhm.
Don't you bill it quarterly?
quarterly.
Yeah, so it just got billed.
And
They
so
paid it.
you think the Rogers Lake is the reimbursement, that 42 is a
Yeah, all of that
reimbursement
is a
from?
reimbursement on their budget,
On the
but
budget.
it's, again, that's quarterly. The only thing that is monthly
Okay.
is the senior center expansion. That is the only thing, everything else is billed quarterly.
Mhm.
So could we add reimbursement to Rogers Lake? That-
Yeah, just add reimbursement after the word Rogers Lake.
For those who don't have institutional memory like some of us do.
On the next page, there's telephone access line, budgeted amount of $38,000. I just don't remember. Who pays us, where do we get that from?
On here,
It's a tax,
yeah, it's on your bill,
is it?
on your phone bill, if you still have a landline.
And I do, and why are they paying us?
They pay every town.
They do?
Yes.
I mean, just
I don't know if it's
Because
the lines
we-
that run through the
we let them
town,
use
or it's
the
tax, but they pay,
infrastructure?
yeah. They pay every time.
Okay. That's about what I pay them every month, so it's not a lot of money.
You're still paying those 30 cents a minute long distance fees?
Remember those days?
Ring twice, hang up.
So has that gone down over the years?
One would expect that.
Under expenses, you don't have to look at it, but we have for early voting wages, nothing budgeted. And I kind of remember, we talked about that before, but is that right? We just missed it when we were budgeting?
She didn't have it, anything at that time, so she did want a separate line so she can keep
Sure.
track of it, that's all it is.
Mhm.
It's for them to keep track of,
Mm-hmm.
but they did not even, I guess, know the extent to what it was gonna be when we did the budget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had a question.
Placeholder.
I had a question in registrar as well. The deputy registrar wage of 8,000 is still 100% left. Do they not get paid until election day?
They get stipend.
How does that work?
Stipend.
They get
So,
stipend.
but when do they get paid that out?
They write us a memo when they wanna
Oh.
pay it.
Okay,
They send us a memo to payroll, and then we pay.
okay.
And I think she paid January part of it in June.
June,
But I know that last year was in June.
okay.
CJ, I think we put extra money in the elections line, more than we budgeted.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's not only voting, but we put extra money under elections, knowing that we're gonna have to spend more because of the early voting, but not how much.
Yeah.
I don't think-
So the-
Right, she didn't know exactly how much we were to get.
But we put the money in
Correct.
the elections line, so it's in the department.
Right, that's why when she wants
Good.
to separate it out
Yep.
so that she can
Makes
move
sense.
forward with it.
Yeah,
They also came to us, the Board of Selectmen, to say that they would like to be paid, you know, their stipend situation too, but they have to cover, one of them has to be here for early voting. So the increase in hours, and they just asked, they already included it in budget, but they just needed us to know that they were gonna implement it, that they would, one of them would have to be there, so we would be seeing more of their paychecks going forward.
Mhm.
We told them that.
Yeah, it's 120 hours, so.
Yeah. And to keep track of it, because we'll all be writing letters to the,
So can you clarify how that works? So there's no money budgeted in that line for early voting wages,
Right.
but they
Right,
pay,
we-
they pay, so you can pay out of that registrar's budget for these, okay,
We added extra money
yeah,
in
the elections.
elections,
Yeah.
so that they'd be able to.
It's just a general
Cover
question, there's
that.
still a little bit of flexibility that we need to pay.
It's designed so we know how much we're spending for that service essentially.
Yeah, if it's within the department, they can move money around to pay for things.
Okay.
It's when, it's when they need other money from other places that it gets a little,
The magic number is the 127,674
yeah.
Okay,
for the total year.
And they can't go over that.
Right.
okay.
Well, up to 20, less than 20,000.
They shouldn't go over it.
Right,
Without
but
letting us know.
they might because of,
But there's extra, I mean, you know, we had the primary, we budgeted
Mhm.
10.5, and they spent, 42.
Yep,
yeah.
so just stick
We won't
to
be able
that.
to primary, I don't think, in this
not this year.
fiscal year, so there's $6,000 there
Mhm.
in their budget.
Okay. Gotcha.
I see on one of the other pages that just rehabilitate a little bit the overage and beach cleaning. We compared the 18,000 to the prior year's 5,000 something. Our budget though this year was 11,300. So we did increase the budget, still, you know, over it substantially, but not by a factor of 3.
And closer,
just remember, the season starts and we're gonna have more.
right, yeah.
We have to pay for May and June.
Andy, on the Old Lyme Volunteer Fire Department, what is the Old Lyme Fire Department firefighter? $29,000 item. What's a firefighter? It's page 10.
Vehicle or something?
Page 10. Down towards the bottom, 508-101.
Is that, turnout gear?
What's,
Line, 508-101, under Public Safety Fire Department?
no, they're still using, ARPA money for turnout gear.
We budgeted, I think we budgeted some money, because it's $2,500 a firefighter. I don't know if that's the line.
But just curiosity, would you
Oh,
find out?
I don't see anything else that would be turnout gear, but.
Yeah.
They spend their
Oh,
ARPA
wait a
money.
minute, it's turnout gear under capital. Because it lasts,
turnout gear, yeah, I think,
it might be under capital.
I believe that
We
it
had
has
a conversation about that specifically.
I thought that that's one of the questions that Mike McCarthy answered last month.
No, that's about the hoses.
Yeah, that was the hoses.
And those are my only questions. Anybody
No, it's
else?
not under capital, so that one, I don't have a
I'll
book.
find out,
My gut tells me it's turnout gear,
okay.
but that could be,
I had a couple questions, on page 3, the assessor. Contracted services is almost finished.
Right, because that contracted services is for software.
Okay. So is there more charge coming, or is that sort of
That's a yearly fee.
set? So did we not know what the contracted service price was gonna be? It looked like a pretty exact number. That was why, because I remember this discussion, but I was wondering why there's still 4,000 and change left.
What page were you on again?
Three.
Page 3, assessor, third one from the bottom, 11, 0011.
Is that the one that changed, where we were leasing the equipment as part of the contract?
No, that's town clerk.
That's town clerk.
That was town clerk. I'm wondering, like, this one in her contracted, she has the vision,
Vision
which is
appraisal?
the one with the reeval that they use.
Oh, so maybe that was an
And then they
estimate.
have the other one, so I'm wondering if it's part of the vision software that wasn't paid yet.
Okay. And then below that, in building department, same thing, contracted services, almost finished.
You should be yearly.
Okay.
I think that's also his software.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we asked that last time.
22,000 looks like it could have just been an estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then down below in town hall, landscaping, which I only think of as funny because there's $7,500 there. It hasn't been spent at all. And I know we wanted some tree work done.
Haven't seen her on the weekends.
Public Works has been doing some of the work for her.
So, landscaping. I've had no request. Joanne D. Camilla was here the other day with Bartlett doing some looking around of what, some trimming and things like that. So, we had a little bit of a conversation on whatever, but I don't, there's the tree that's outside my office, Bartlett said, you can trim it, but if it's in the same shape it is next year, it's coming down.
Okay.
So, it's not. But as far as putting anything new in, nothing has been added. As far
So
as
what-
landscape, so we have saved on landscaping because we've used Ben and George. And unfortunately, by the way, George is leaving us. Friday is his last day. So we were very sad about that. But he's going to be paid much more money to take care of one building in Region 4 than the town, so.
Are you hiring somebody new?
Mm-hmm. And we, as of this afternoon, we already had 7 people look at it, and it just got posted today.
Awesome.
So,
Okay. So is this landscaping budget sort of like extraneous now, or do we think that that's still gonna get used? Or is that gonna be used for like specific stuff like trimming trees at town hall and stuff like that?
it's not so much used, I mean, Ed doesn't use that line item for trimming trees here. He just sends the guys over and they, you know, mow, do whatever they have to do. Once in a while, George or Ben would come in and say to me, "Nick, I have to get permission from the tree commission to do much anything around here, so that would have to go through Joanne and she would have to approve it." So we don't have plans yet, but spring's coming.
Okay. Okay, hold on to that, 7,500.
It's October. And you know, last year, like flowers miraculously appeared by the Veterans Memorial over by the flagpole, and I got a bill for $190. I didn't order anything to be put there, but I was right after I took office, was for Veterans Day. This year I said I would take Henry out, our senior, our high school, my intern from the high school that comes over and likes to do work. I said to Tim, we'll put stuff out there, but I think Duck River came and did it this year for
Oh,
it, because it was
just done.
and it was done. And I haven't gotten a bill yet, so I'll let you know. But we're not paying those kinds of prices. I'm more than happy to put marigolds in anytime somebody asks me to.
I love it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know if this belongs, this portion, but since we're going over the budget, did we get a resolution on the harbor management committee's, like, checking account?
Just gonna ask that question.
Yes, we did.
How that
Yes,
came
it's
about?
it's a Connecticut general statute, and I can tell you what it is. Hold on.
Did they get their own checkbook?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So it's section 22A-11-113S, permitting fees. Commission may propose a fee schedule for permits for moorings or anchorages or any other activity within the scope of the plan to be adopted by vote of the legislative body of which town is establishing the commission. The maximum annual fee for a mooring or anchorage shall be $200. The harbor master or deputy harbor master of the municipality shall collect such fee. Any fee collected pursuant to this section shall be deposited into a fund maintained by the municipality, maintained by the municipality in which such fee was collected, and shall be used for the maintenance and improvement of the harbor for the public and for expenses for personnel and equipment directly related to the function of the commission and the harbor master or deputy harbor master.
So I hear that to say,
Checkbook.
no,
No,
it's the contrary.
Town.
Yeah.
Managed by the town.
Right.
So we,
How it's spent, yeah.
So we need a special fund, we need to have to set up a special
It's
fund.
there.
it's already there.
Okay.
That's what, they call it their check, they call it their account. It's just a fund that was created by.
But they not only call it their account, they clearly have written, like, I don't know that we have a whole lot of oversight on how the expenditures go out from that. That, I think, was
Well,
one of
but to your point, I think you're right. My understanding last week, was it?
Yeah,
That they do have a separate checkbook and they have check writing authority.
yeah.
yeah.
That's what I heard.
That's what he said. He was very specific, and he was like, oh, I don't know.
No, he said,
Cloud.
he apologized, I thought he sent a thing, and I thought he sent it to everybody saying he apologized,
Oh,
because he
I didn't get that.
did not, I'll find it and forward it to all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got $37,000 in their account.
Correct.
That's what he said they had.
They spent year-to-date $73.84, and they've only charged $1,811 for fees for goods and services, which means
That's all that I've received.
But that's only since July, remember, most of the mooring fees came in May.
other than, okay.
Yeah, people have to get their mooring ahead of time.
Because he said it was around 15,000 that they take in every year.
Well, 37 is the number he said,
But it,
Yeah.
they had, and that's what
They
the
had,
count.
yeah.
Yeah.
but it raises an interesting concept. It's interesting
Eric,
statutorily
did he?
described.
The computer screen, I'm going to turn off the computer screen in the meeting room, so
Yes.
someone's going to need to turn that computer screen off, or you can tell me.
You can do it.
Okay?
You just take the remote and hit the red button, and the screen will go off.
I'll go do that.
Come back and get me if you can't do it.
So what I heard Martha read was effectively the fees are capped by statute, and they are, the expenditure of the fees is dictated by statute. The collected fees can only be used for A, B, C, and D. So my question is whether we've been doing that, right? And if not, in other words, if we're collecting a lot more in fees every year than we're spending, we should either spend more, the Harbor Management Commission, we should discuss with them, are there improvements that, you might be doing, or are we overcharging the public and we should reduce the fees a little bit? Well, at 37,000 isn't an enormous number, but it doesn't make sense to continue to throw something that can't be
When
spent.
you're putting a dock, when you have a dock expenditure, repairs, where we're expected to pay $54,000 for 7 years, 5
And
years.
that's also, we talked about some of it coming from there.
Right, but, that's,
Well, but that's a good point,
Yeah,
right?
so
In
there's
other
not a
words, we
problem.
were responding to the request to fund that improvement out of new money coming in, right? And arguably, we could say, well, why not take 20 of your 37,000?
yeah.
Well, that's what they suggested, that they would pay you $7,000 a year, and for 4 years.
But they were contemplating
Saying more.
come from new
But
money.
BJ would still have to be budgeted and approved by us, so either way.
Yeah, well,
because
we
that
ought,
money's sitting in their account, it's not budgeted in this year's budget.
No,
correct.
So we would still have to approve it, and we can't approve spending $37,000 of their money, of our money, on harbor management without a town meeting, because we can only do 20,000, even though the money's sitting there.
except I think this, Andy, because of the Connecticut general statute, it overrules that thing, and if they needed to do something to improve the harbor, they can spend that $37,000.
But they can't.
They can, because it's a special fund for harbor improvement. And if they've taken it in, even though it's our revenue that we took in, their revenue that they took in, I think that they can spend it. I'm happy-
It sounds like that's how they've been handling it.
But that doesn't sound, 'cause
Like,
it's-
like what's budgeted here is pretty
Well,
simple stuff. Like, it's not real complicated. And there's, there's nothing in here. They only have $2,000 for other miscellaneous. Other than that, it's all standard things. So like, what are they spending that money on? I think they've been spending it without permission, without budgeted,
Well, but I think
but
that,
maybe they're allowed to do that.
no, but I think
more.
Mike said that they did present us with a budget, and they do present us with a budget every year that we approve, and we should.
But like, there's
Okay, so-
nothing in here that says anything about moorings, for instance, like fixing moorings and things like that, but that's what they're using.
They're using it for.
That fund
the
for.
revenues coming from
Remember,
the-
they only have like 10 to 12 town moorings.
Mhm.
The rest of them, they don't repair everybody else's moorings.
Mhm.
They only take care of their 10 or 12.
Right, it's just that there's no line item here
I
for
know.
anything to do with that. But that brings me to, what is contracted services for them for 5,500? Because that's totally spent. And to everyone's point,
That was the one that for the, wasn't it? The other town, they give the other town so much money.
Is that the pump boat,
About that.
pump out boat?
Thank you.
Contracted services, every town puts in so much money. for
Gotcha.
the Pump out boat to come
okay,
back.
so that's not even anything to do with, I thought maybe that might have been something to do with what they're doing regularly, but nope.
The disconnect is, under a special revenue fund,
Mm-hmm.
it shows they've spent $334.
And that's not
Which is probably
reflected.
money that came out of their quote-unquote checkbook.
Yes,
And
it
not
is
your
on
checkbook.
there. It's, well, yeah, it's our checkbook.
And it's in here,
It's their account. Our check.
Right, right.
Their line item in our budget.
But on
No,
a,
it's not in the general fund, it's in their own fund.
I know.
It's in our money, it's our money, we're hanging on to the money, yeah.
but Anna's point is well taken, and let's remember it when we're dealing with the budget for the Harbor Management Commission next spring, to make sure that it's a complete budget.
Yeah, we're just capturing all the costs.
Can those funds be used for the Horseneck Creek dock?
Yes,
Could that be applied?
I think that was something
falls
that-
under that.
yes, I think that was something that they were
That's a big
considering.
expense. Yeah, okay.
Anything else on the financials?
I guess I was wondering if you have to pay attention to the transfer station costs. Sorry about that. Page 14. Since they used about 80% of their money for recycling already.
It might be,
And put down there.
their income, other stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
it comes on the first page. So
Yeah, the recycling all items, there's only 20% left. And then, just mention how they can move money around within in their budget, but they're already spent 50% of
Can
it.
you see what line, I don't see a line for 20.
General fund, okay, page
Yeah,
14.
It's at the top, it just says recycling,
Not transfer station. Look at the
Oh,
recycling.
Oh, it's recycling, recycling all items.
all items.
And it's the $20,000
Right, they
budget?
spent 8,000,
This-
current year expenditures 15,827.
Right.
Yes. And there's only 46% left of the whole budget.
You're right, so some are shifting things around and covering that cost. Well,
They're charging us more to take this stuff away.
It's the brush, right, it's the brush.
Recycling?
Where's the brush? It does the brush.
The brush chipping. They come in to do the chipping of the brush. I don't think that necessarily is that line though.
Oh, I thought so.
I mean, we were over budget last year, that was one of the things we did at our last meeting. Transfer station was over budget
Yeah.
on expenditures.
Yep.
It had revenue to cover it, but we still had to shift money to cover it. And so maybe we have to really be careful budgeting. If costs are going up for getting rid of everything as they are, we used to get paid to get rid of a lot of the recycled stuff.
That's right. I think the only thing now we get paid for with any great revenue is the metal.
Yeah,
I think,
and that's a lot less than it used to be.
I think another thing is if you remember when Ed was presenting his budget for Public Works, Andy, you said to him, look, if you've gone over for 2 years, it's time to increase that 35,000 up.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably doing the same thing with transfer station.
Mhm.
So he just stays the same, but he's not looking at the history. So we need to get him to be more,
It might be changing rapidly too, it's hard
Yeah.
to see the trend,
And it's
so.
nobody's fault, I mean, it's just,
So we'd have to be prepared to provide them more money later on
yeah.
this year, that's how that would
And
work.
you kind of wait till the end of the year to see how bad it is, because we can only do it,
Once a
if
year.
it's 20,000 or less, we can only do it once.
Oh,
We can't say give them 15,000 more now and then 15,000 more in June. And if it goes over 20, then it's gotta go to town meeting, as we just did,
yeah,
or hopefully we can transfer money from somewhere else, so the town doesn't go over budget, just transfer from the department. We need town approval to do that.
yeah. Because at this rate, 20 won't do it. I think.
No.
And I think, I think that was the season though, that was, people didn't.
Some seasonal,
Yeah.
okay.
I can look into it.
Okay.
So are we good now? Edie, are you still awake? Come join us.
so if I could just do a little background, but Edie basically, as you know, came to the Board of Finance, a month ago. Was supposed to go for the town meeting to ask for this request. Some numbers changed prior to the town meeting, so we took it off the call for the meeting, and we did some renegotiating and getting some more clarification on some of it. And that is why she's back before you tonight.
And so basically, when we went to the Board of Selectmen, they approved 98,000, and we need to keep it at 98,000. So I apologize for having to rearrange this, but
So are we talking about the same number but for a different allocation?
yeah, the number changed in the bridge and pier piece of the project.
Yeah, it was, we had approved, I think, 87,
Yeah.
when you came here last, because I'm looking at the old one, and so
Oh.
they're asking for a pretty material increase on the
Yeah.
cost.
So
And what's the cause of the variance? Why is it so much
The
higher?
cause was, we got more firm numbers from the engineers about what their cost was for the pier design. And we thought we had the number correct, and it changed from what we expected.
I guess I'm just a little confused, like, so you guys had
We didn't have a
So you
firm
didn't have a
number from
solid
them.
number when you
Yeah,
came
we
to
didn't
us?
have a solid number when we came in. I mean, there's been sort of this pressure for us to get things done. And it's a bad way to work. I mean, we need to just do our work and take our time and get it done.
So I don't see how this expedited it by coming in with like the number before, and now we're back here talking about it, I guess, just from a process standpoint. Like, I guess I don't understand why we couldn't have just waited another month to, I mean, I guess it is what it is, so.
Yeah,
basically that, it didn't go to town meeting, so it,
we didn't want to take it to town meeting and have to wait.
we needed to clarify, we've had a serious conversation with AI standing up, but basically not, their original contract, and then when the fishing pier got added in, they needed to do a supplemental contract. We've not signed the supplemental contract for the fishing pier. We can't sign it until this money is appropriated for it. So unfortunately, a lot of the permitting, and Paul's here too, because Paul J. Quinto's worked a lot with making sure that we're following through. And Michael Barnes has also helped us from Harbor Management, because some of their contract language was,
We weren't getting everything done with it.
they weren't even getting done, and so we had a serious conversation that if it says you're getting us to permitting, then you should have known you needed to include it A, B, C, D, E. Don't come back me as a supplemental contract and say, I need A, B, C, D, E. Oh, no, that was supposed to be included in number one. So they basically came back and gave us a list of things that they, A, had done. Today I got the Edie brought me in the hydrographic survey, because I said I'm not paying them anything. This is supposed to be done in section one, and they did do it. But I think they did it after we reminded them they were supposed to do it.
They're backing up and doing the things that should have been done.
So are we feeling confident about this number?
I think this is a real number. I think, you know, the other thing that happens is when you're going and getting permits and working with DEEP about things in the water, as you may have found with our management, all of a sudden they're like, oh, and now we need this kind of survey and that kind of survey, and we need to hire someone to do that. So, you know, from what I understand, this is the right number, but I just, you know.
Edie, I don't see the botanist on here.
The what?
The botanist?
I didn't put it in there.
But so we left this at 95.5.
I mean, I'm waiting to find out if we're really gonna pay for the botanist.
Right, so today we were found that we have to do some, they've already done a little. But basically, you have to identify the plants along the Lieutenant River. And they've identified a few that are very special. But some of those plants do not bloom until the spring. So when you come down here in the fall, you can't tell if that plant is truly alive. So you have to wait and come back. For those of you who are looking for new professions, I tell you.
So Edie, I'm just looking at the last one, and it looks like the difference is the 12,008 here, and the increase from 47 to 60,000, right?
No, the 12,000 is not, what the addition is 60. And then also they gave us a credit of 14,800. We dropped landscaping part of the contract because we decided they don't know what they're doing with that, so paid for that.
Well, I guess the numbers, from last time, the number is up from 87 to 98.
Was this a two-page? Was this a two-page thing?
86.
No, I brought, so I saw it was on the agenda, so I just grabbed last.
Oh, gotcha. Well, no, because yours is different from mine. Yeah, this is, these
What's the date
two,
on the bottom?
This number,
the same,
47,000.
but her number has 43,000, my number has 40,500 underneath landscape
Under
credit.
landscape credit?
Yeah,
And hers says 98,000, and mine says 95,500.
that's good as mine. I think you have a copy from this morning, and then another copy from tonight.
Oh, so does yours say 95 or 98?
Mine says 98.
Okay, so maybe I'm the only one, but I'm like literally following, like,
I'm
I
95.5.
have no idea what I'm looking at. Here you go.
Okay, that's why I asked, I was like, why
Every
did
sheet is different.
This one's right.
Okay.
Fred's is wrong too. He's give me your 95 back.
Here,
We're all set.
I've got 87, so.
I'm like, wait, what? Okay, all right, we're good. We got it. Here, I'll take it. No, this one's still wrong.
Movement in the numbers.
It's still wrong. This one's wrong. No, this is the one that she just gave me. These are not correct. No, these are not correct.
Here.
Okay, here you go. Okay. Get me going the right way, all right? No problem.
Michelle needs one.
Oh yeah, look, there's a 60,000 on here. This makes so, I'm like, where are they talking about 60,000?
My understanding of,
I guess I'm missing something tonight.
is to recommend this 98,000 for these purposes go to town meeting, as I assume the Board of Selectmen had,
Which was the original number that we had back in
before the 87, you had the 98.
September. Yes, September. And
So let's get a motion in a second and then further discussion.
I'll move that we send 98,000 to town meeting. Is that the motion we're looking for?
That we recommend.
That we recommend $98,000 for the Halls Road Committee go to town meeting.
Good?
I'll second that.
Fred seconds. Any further discussion?
Yeah, so you brought up the question, we might have to hire a botanist. I mean, about the last thing we need to do is send $98,000 to town meeting, then come back and find out we need another $10,000 or $15,000 for another part to keep this project moving. The problem we are having.
Okay. Can I get this wrong?
I'll stand up, so you.
Or come sit over there.
Yeah, just come sit down over here.
I'll stand up so I don't fall asleep. The problem we're having is that AI badly botched the execution of the first phase of their contract. They were responsible for all of the permitting in its entirety for the pedestrian bridge. We had several conversations with them explaining to them, you have not been performing, you've been overbilling, you have not finished deliverables that you're billing for. So we're trying to get them back in line. We've gotten them to say, yes, we did not do our job properly. Yes, we're going to do our job properly. And we want to work for the town. We take this very seriously.
We have that in writing.
And then the next thing they do is they turn around and send us a request for a change order for work that was in the base contract.
Which has already been paid.
Well,
Portions of it, yeah. The statement of work for the original contract, Task 6, permitting. The designer will be responsible for identifying and obtaining required environmental permits for the entire project. Now, this is just for the pedestrian bridge. It's got nothing to do with the pier. As well as collecting the necessary information to support the permit applications, such as delineation of wetlands, so going out there and finding the flora and the fauna, that's their job per the base contract. The problem is that because we are now trying to negotiate a change order, they keep trying to mix the two. And we keep fighting to separate the two. So their extra cost to their sub-design consultant is not our extra cost. And tomorrow, we'll issue an email explaining that to them. So we're forced to aim at a moving target. Our possible courses of action are, we never take a shot, or we take a shot with the best information we have and then continue to fight the fight. We've got a pretty weak horse in this race, but I think if we go get a different horse at this point, we have more problems than we're saddled with right now.
Well, so let me ask a couple of questions. There's obviously a contract dispute, but in terms of the quantity and quality of their work, is it satisfactory? In other words, talking about switching horses, I would be more interested in having that discussion if you don't have confidence that these guys are going to complete the project properly, right? If they've undermined your confidence in their competence and we're having this contract dispute, then are we simply postponing the inevitable by going forward with them?
Fine question. We have not increased our level of confidence in their competence. However, they have contracted with an outfit called Shore Design, who is extremely good at what they do. Their business is permitting work in coastal regions. So I have absolutely no reason to doubt their competence, and I have recommendations from several people that I trust that say they are very, very good at what they do. So are we confident in AI? No. We're confident in their sub-design consultant.
Well, what percentage of the work under the contract is gonna be performed by the subcontractor rather than AI itself?
So they hired the Shore Design to go back and do the work that they had not done, that we said, this
Right.
is supposed to be done, you're billing us
Right.
for something. So,
But going forward, is the subcontractor going to do all the work necessary to complete the contract?
They're not